Have you ever found yourself reacting to negativity and later wishing you'd responded differently? Do you feel drained by people who disrespect you and wonder how Buddhism can guide you toward inner peace? In today's video, we'll explore powerful Buddhist teachings that help you master your reactions, reclaim your dignity, and protect your inner peace. You'll discover simple yet profound ways to handle disrespect gracefully, without losing yourself in the process. Welcome to Buddhism and Life, where timeless Buddhist wisdom meets your everyday challenges. If you're ready to transform how you handle difficult people, keep watching, and if you find value in our teachings, don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe to help our channel grow and reach 1,000 subscribers. Your support truly inspires us to create more meaningful content. The Buddha taught, when you maintain calmness within your soul, no one can hurt you. So, how can we wisely apply silence, compassionately yet powerfully, in even the most difficult situations? Join me now to explore these 5 methods. Method 1. The silent stare, reclaiming power without a word. In Buddhist thought, silence isn't weakness, it's mastery over one's mind. When someone disrespects you, your first impulse might be to explain yourself, to defend your dignity, or even to retaliate. But imagine the strength you'd hold if instead, you simply offered silence, not an angry silence, but a compassionate, purposeful silence, the silent stare. This isn't passive-aggressive or dismissive. Rather, it's a powerful act of mindful self-restraint. Buddhism and Stoicism both teach that true strength lies in our ability to master our emotional responses. The Buddha once faced verbal abuse from a Brahmin. Instead of responding in anger or defensiveness, the Buddha remained calm and silent. Later, when asked about his silence, he gently said, "If someone offers you a gift and you refuse to accept it, to whom does it belong?" This captures the essence of the silent stare. It's a quiet but firm refusal to accept another person's emotional negativity. I remember clearly a meeting where a colleague repeatedly interrupted me, dismissing my points before I could even finish them. Initially, frustration rose within me, but instead of letting anger dictate my response, I paused, looked directly into his eyes, and said nothing. In those silent seconds, the room felt heavier, the air thicker. My colleague faltered, his confidence visibly shaken. Without any harsh words or confrontation, my silence spoke volumes. From that day forward, my space in conversations was respected. The silent stare teaches us the profound lesson that presence matters far more than performance. You never need to justify your worth. Simply being yourself, calmly and confidently, speaks louder than any explanation or argument. Buddhist teachings highlight a deeper spiritual truth here. Every reaction, every impulse to defend oneself, is rooted in attachment. It's an attachment to how others see us, to being respected or understood. True liberation occurs when you no longer feel the need to prove yourself to anyone. Your inner dignity, much like the lotus flower, blooms beautifully, untouched by external judgments and criticisms. This wisdom is echoed in Christianity, too. When Jesus stood before Pontius Pilate, he faced severe judgment and humiliation. Pilate expected anger, pleading, or resistance. Instead, Jesus offered only calm silence. A silence so profound it left Pilate astonished. Jesus's silence wasn't defeat, it was an unshakable demonstration of inner strength and dignity. Far more powerful than any words could have conveyed. So next time someone crosses your boundaries, resist the immediate urge to respond. Pause instead. Allow your silence to become your clearest message, one of dignity, compassion, and inner peace. In silence, you reclaim your power, reminding yourself and the world that peace within is your greatest strength. The practice of silence is deeply embedded in spiritual traditions around the world because it offers profound insights and powerful lessons about human interaction and self-awareness. The silent stare isn't about dominance or winning an argument. It's about asserting your presence in a way that respects both your integrity and the humanity of the other person. In Tibetan Buddhism, there's a teaching known as noble silence, where monks and practitioners spend extended periods in complete silence to cultivate mindfulness and deep insight. This silence isn't empty, it's filled with awareness, clarity, and a deep sense of interconnectedness. When you apply noble silence in interpersonal conflicts, you're essentially practicing a mini meditation, anchoring yourself in the present moment and refusing to be swept away by reactive emotions. Historically, great leaders and spiritual teachers often used silence strategically. Mahatma Gandhi utilized silence to great effect, often meeting aggression and disrespect with serene composure. This calmness didn't just disarm his opponents, it inspired millions, showing the world that true power lies in peaceful, unshakable conviction rather than heated debate or violent confrontation. The philosopher Marcus Aurelius, a Stoic emperor of Rome, regularly wrote about the strength found in silence and calmness. He argued that the strongest response to insults or negativity was simply not responding, not giving the negativity any energy or attention. Aurelius understood, much like Buddhist monks, that emotional reactions are choices we make, and silence is often the wisest choice available. Consider also the lessons from nature. Trees do not argue with the wind, they simply stand tall, firmly rooted in the earth. The wind eventually moves on, but the tree remains steady, unaffected. In moments of disrespect or criticism, you can choose to be the tree. Let negative words pass by you like wind through branches, without disturbing your core. A beautiful Zen story illustrates this point perfectly. Two monks were walking quietly down a village road when suddenly, an angry man approached them, hurling insults and accusations. One monk became agitated and wanted to argue, but the older monk gently put his hand on his companion's shoulder and whispered, "Peace comes from silence." They continued walking without reacting. Soon, the angry man stopped following them, frustrated by their lack of engagement. The younger monk asked, "Why didn't we defend ourselves?" The older monk replied, "His anger belongs only to him. Our peace belongs to us." So how do you practically integrate this teaching into your daily life? Pause and breathe. When disrespected, take a deep breath and pause. This creates a momentary space between stimulus and reaction, allowing you to choose silence consciously. Anchor in compassion. Remember that people who disrespect others are often battling their own insecurities and pains. Responding with silence and calmness can sometimes be an act of compassion, preventing escalation and promoting eventual understanding. Practice mindfulness daily. Regular meditation or mindfulness practices help you build a reservoir of inner calm. Over time, this calmness becomes your default response. Reflect. Don't react. After the incident, reflect privately. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this, rather than dwelling on the offense? Use the experience to grow spiritually and emotionally stronger. Ultimately, the silent stare is about reclaiming your emotional independence. It is a conscious, compassionate choice to stay aligned with your highest values. Regardless of external provocations, silence, in this profound and mindful sense, becomes your greatest advocate, teacher, and ally. Method 2. Embrace silence. Let their words echo alone. In Buddhism, the principle of right speech teaches us to speak only when our words offer benefit or healing. Sometimes, the most compassionate response is no response at all. Embracing silence in the face of negativity isn't passive or weak, it's an intentional act of kindness, both toward yourself and toward the one who seeks to harm you. People who resort to disrespectful words or actions often do so because they crave attention or validation. By choosing silence, you deny them the reaction they seek. Your silence becomes a mirror, gently reflecting their own behavior back to them. In doing so, you help them confront their actions without anger or judgment from you. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus beautifully illustrated this idea, saying, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." This reminds us to remain thoughtful and composed, even when others attempt to provoke us. I recall clearly an encounter at work when a colleague tried to embarrass me with a sarcastic comment in front of others. My initial instinct was to defend myself or fire back with a witty remark. Instead, I chose to gently smile and remain silent. That silence was powerful. It created an unexpected pause, making him visibly uncomfortable. Without my reaction, his words lost their strength, and he never tried such comments again. There's a beautiful Buddhist parable that perfectly captures this wisdom. Once, an angry man approached the Buddha and hurled insults and harsh criticisms at him relentlessly. The Buddha listened calmly, saying nothing. After a while, the man, exhausted, finally stopped. The Buddha asked softly, "When guests visit your home, do you offer them food and drink?" Surprised, the man replied, "Of course I do." The Buddha continued, "If they refuse your offerings, to whom does the food belong?" The man thought for a moment and answered, "It would remain mine." The Buddha gently explained, "Exactly. Likewise, your anger remains yours. I choose not to accept it." Christian teachings also hold profound insights into the power of silence. Jesus, facing intense accusations, humiliation, and disrespect, frequently chose silence as his response. His calm, unwavering silence disturbed his accusers far more than words ever could. Jesus' choice was rooted deeply in inner peace, dignity, and an understanding that truth requires no defense. Silence provides space for self-reflection, not just for those acting disrespectfully, but also for ourselves. When we refrain from immediately responding, we offer ourselves a moment of clarity, a chance to reconnect with our core values and compassion. This pause allows us to remain grounded, ensuring our reactions come from a place of wisdom rather than emotional turbulence. The Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh often emphasized the importance of mindful silence. He taught that when faced with confrontation or negativity, taking a mindful breath and embracing silence allows compassion to arise naturally. It gives both parties room to calm down, reconsider their perspectives, and choose peace over conflict. Consider this story from my own life. A friend, struggling with personal issues, once lashed out at me with uncharacteristic hostility. Instead of defending myself or reacting negatively, I chose to remain silent, holding compassionate space for their pain. Later, they came to me with a heartfelt apology, sharing their deep gratitude for my patience and understanding. My silence had communicated more empathy and kindness than any words possibly could. In Zen Buddhism, silence is highly valued as a path to enlightenment. Zen practitioners often spend extended periods in silence during retreats. This silence isn't emptiness, it's filled with profound awareness and insight. Similarly, in everyday life, embracing silence amidst conflict or negativity can offer powerful insights, allowing us to respond from a place of deeper understanding and compassion. The Dalai Lama beautifully expresses the power of silence when he says, "Silence is sometimes the best answer." His words highlight that silence isn't about avoidance but rather intentional compassion, wisdom, and the mindful preservation of peace. It is about knowing when words will not heal but rather exacerbate conflict, and wisely choosing silence instead. The Stoics shared this viewpoint. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, often advocated inner stillness amidst external chaos. He understood that maintaining internal tranquility was essential to leadership and wisdom. Aurelius emphasized the importance of pausing, reflecting, and withholding reaction, knowing that our calmness in the face of adversity is our greatest strength. Christian scripture, too, underscores the potency of silence. In Proverbs, it is written, "Even fools are thought wise if they keep silent, and discerning if they hold their tongues." Silence, according to biblical wisdom, elevates our dignity and maturity, guiding us toward more meaningful and harmonious interactions. Remember, silence isn't surrender, it's a strong and compassionate stance. When you remain silent in the face of disrespect, you communicate clearly and powerfully. Your words don't define me, I define myself. Choosing silence safeguards your inner peace, affirms your dignity, and leaves negativity to echo alone, untouched by your tranquility. Method 3. Stop explaining yourself. You don't need permission to be you. In Buddhist teachings, one profound lesson is non-attachment, not only to material possessions but also to the opinions and perceptions others have of us. So often, we trap ourselves in cycles of explanation, continuously justifying our decisions and choices to people who may never truly understand our path. But the compassionate truth is that you don't need permission from others to be your authentic self. When people question or criticize your choices, they're often projecting their own insecurities, fears, or uncertainties onto you. Their skepticism can feel intrusive, and you might instinctively start to justify yourself. Yet beneath their probing is usually their own discomfort with the unfamiliar or courageous steps you're taking. Their doubts need not become your burden. I vividly remember when I made a life-changing decision to leave behind a secure, high-paying career to pursue a path of spiritual teaching and mindfulness. The decision wasn't easy, and I expected resistance. However, the flood of questions, doubts, and criticisms from family, friends, and colleagues was more overwhelming than I'd anticipated. Why would you give up stability? Are you sure you won't regret it? And the inevitable, how will you survive, became daily refrains. At first, my natural reaction was to respond, reassure, and endlessly justify my decisions. Each conversation drained me, pulling me further from my own inner clarity and toward anxiety and doubt. The more I explained, the less peace I felt. Finally, in a moment of quiet meditation, I remembered a core Buddhist teaching. True freedom lies in letting go, not just of material things, but of the constant need to prove oneself to others. It was then that I realized a simple truth. I owed no one an explanation for following my heart. My path needed no external validation. From then on, when confronted with skepticism, I gently replied, "Because it feels right for me." This response brought a sense of empowerment and reclaimed my peace. Buddhist teachings offer a poignant story about a wise monk who lived an unconventional life of simplicity and meditation. His lifestyle naturally sparked curiosity and skepticism from villagers who continually questioned his choices. Instead of defending himself with lengthy explanations, he simply smiled warmly and said, "The path I follow is clear to my heart, and that clarity is enough." His calm, unshakable assurance eventually not only silenced their criticisms but inspired them to reflect on their own life choices. Similarly, in Christian teachings, the life of Jesus provides profound insights. Throughout his journey, Jesus made choices that deeply puzzled and often frustrated those around him. He associated with societal outcasts, healed the marginalized, and challenged prevailing norms. When questioned or criticized, he rarely offered lengthy explanations. Instead, his actions spoke louder than any words, rooted firmly in compassion and unwavering self-assurance. He did not seek approval. He sought only to fulfill his purpose with authenticity and grace. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus also beautifully articulated this idea when he said, "If you wish to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. What others think of your path is far less important than your own clarity and sense of purpose." Explaining yourself repeatedly to those determined to misunderstand you only wastes your precious emotional energy. Reflect for a moment. Why do we feel compelled to justify our choices? It often stems from an attachment to external validation, a deep-seated need for approval, and fear of rejection or isolation. Buddhist philosophy reminds us gently that such attachments only lead to suffering. True liberation arises when we understand our intrinsic worth, independent of external approval. Consider also the teachings of Lao Tzu in the Tao Te Ching, where he wisely states, "Care about people's approval, and you will be their prisoner." Seeking approval places us at the mercy of others' fleeting judgments and biases. When we let go of this need, we experience the genuine freedom of self-acceptance. You can practice the following steps to embrace not explaining yourself. Mindful awareness. Begin noticing when you're about to justify or overly explain yourself. Awareness is the first step toward change. Pause and reflect. Before responding, pause and ask yourself, is this explanation necessary? Will it add value or peace? Often, silence or a simple response is enough. Gentle but firm boundaries. When people continue pressing for explanations, gently but firmly set boundaries with responses like, "This decision aligns with my values," or, "It simply feels right to me." Affirm your worth daily. Remind yourself regularly of your worthiness and the validity of your choices through affirmations. Meditation, or journaling. There's great power in standing peacefully in your truth without the need to justify it. Imagine a tree standing firmly rooted in the ground, unshaken by winds of judgment or skepticism. The tree doesn't explain its roots or branches, it simply grows. Nourished by the earth, confident in its nature and purpose. By embracing this mindset, you cultivate profound inner peace and strength. You shift from being reactive, constantly defending and explaining, to proactive, confidently living your truth. This shift liberates immense mental and emotional energy, enabling you to channel it toward fulfilling your deeper purpose and aspirations. Ultimately, the essence of this teaching lies in compassion for yourself and others. Understand that those who question you often do so from their limitations or fears, not malice. Meet their skepticism with kindness but without surrendering your power. Your compassionate yet firm approach can inspire them toward greater self-awareness and introspection. Remember, each individual's journey is unique. Like rivers flowing toward the sea, our paths may differ, twist, and turn, but each is valid and meaningful in its own right. You don't owe explanations or justifications for the course your river takes. Its beauty lies precisely in its authenticity and individuality. You do not owe anyone an explanation for following your heart. Your life's purpose doesn't need approval or validation from others. It simply needs to resonate deeply within your own soul. Stop explaining yourself and start living authentically. In doing so, you reclaim your power, inspire others through your quiet confidence, and create a life filled with true peace and fulfillment. Method 4. Keep your distance. Protecting your peace is sacred. In Buddhist teachings, wise association, surrounding oneself with individuals who inspire and uplift, is essential for spiritual liberation. Just as nourishing relationships fuel our growth, toxic relationships drain our emotional and spiritual energy. Recognizing this is not just wise, it's compassionate to both ourselves and others. Creating distance isn't punishment or rejection. It's an act of deep self-compassion and mindful preservation. When someone consistently undermines or disrespects you, gently stepping away to protect your emotional and spiritual well-being isn't harsh, it's wise. This conscious distancing acknowledges that your inner peace and happiness deserve careful safeguarding. I once had a friend who regularly made subtle yet cutting remarks about my spiritual beliefs and practices. Initially, I told myself friendship required patience, understanding, and tolerance, and I genuinely tried to overlook these comments. However, over time, I began noticing a significant toll on my emotional state. Each interaction left me drained, unsettled, and subtly doubting myself. My confidence in my spiritual path, which was once strong and steady, began to waver. Rather than choosing a confrontation or dramatically cutting ties, I decided to gradually withdraw my energy. I stopped initiating conversations and naturally redirected my attention toward people who genuinely uplifted me. I shifted focus toward relationships rooted in encouragement, authenticity, and genuine understanding. It wasn't an easy decision, initially. I felt guilty and conflicted, but soon, the benefits became clear. The transformation in my emotional and spiritual landscape was immediate and profound. Without constant exposure to negativity, doubt, and subtle criticisms, I quickly regained clarity, peace, and confidence. I found myself feeling lighter, more grounded, and deeply connected to my spiritual practices once again. This experience strongly affirmed a core Buddhist teaching, that consciously choosing positive associations and environments is essential for personal and spiritual growth. The Buddhist scriptures beautifully illustrate this idea through the story of the lotus flower. Despite growing in muddy, murky waters, the lotus rises above the surface pristine and untouched. Similarly, even amidst challenging or negative circumstances, we can maintain our inner peace and clarity by setting intentional and mindful boundaries. Consciously distancing ourselves from negativity allows our inner wisdom and tranquility the necessary space to flourish. Similarly, this essential wisdom can also be found in Christian teachings. Jesus frequently withdrew into solitude to recharge spiritually and emotionally. He recognized clearly that to serve others compassionately, he first had to safeguard and nurture his own spiritual energy. He understood the importance of periodically distancing himself from people and situations that would drain him or unnecessarily challenge his purpose. These moments of quiet solitude allowed him to reconnect deeply with his inner truth and divine mission, enabling him to serve humanity with even greater compassion, clarity, and strength. Stoic philosophy also reinforces the value of wisely choosing our company. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." Surrounding ourselves with negative influences inevitably colors our perspective with doubt and distress. Conversely, aligning ourselves with those who uplift and inspire us nourishes our souls and aligns us more closely with virtue, wisdom, and peace. There is an ancient Buddhist parable about two monks who approached a river where they found a woman struggling to cross. Even though their vows prevented them from touching women, the older monk, without hesitation, carried her across the river. The younger monk was troubled by this apparent violation of their vows and remained silently upset. Hours later, unable to contain himself, the younger monk questioned the elder. The elder monk responded gently, "Brother, I put the woman down on the other side of the river. Why are you still carrying her?" This story vividly demonstrates the importance of releasing negative emotional burdens. Just as the younger monk carried unnecessary negativity, we often carry emotional baggage from negative relationships far longer than necessary. Creating healthy distance allows us to set down those burdens, enabling peace and clarity to return. Christian scripture also offers wisdom through the practice of discernment. Jesus counseled his followers to be wise as serpents and harmless as doves, highlighting the need for clear boundaries coupled with compassionate intention. This balance empowers us to discern when distance is essential for spiritual well-being, even as we maintain kindness and goodwill. Practical advice rooted in compassion includes setting gentle yet clear boundaries. You don't need to engage in dramatic announcements, harsh confrontations, or prolonged explanations. Instead, quietly realign your energy by gently redirecting it toward relationships that genuinely nurture your growth. Spend more time with those who inspire and uplift your spirit and less with those who drain or undermine you. Over time, your quiet and steady realignment will clearly communicate your boundaries without words. Always remember, protecting your peace isn't selfish, it's sacred. You cannot serve others effectively if your own spiritual and emotional reserves are depleted. Choosing distance isn't about dismissing others. It's about consciously choosing peace and well-being. Understanding that you are worthy of respect, kindness, and emotional safety. You don't need dramatic declarations or confrontations to establish healthy boundaries. Gently and compassionately realign your relationships by quietly shifting your energy toward those who truly support and uplift your spirit. Allow your newfound peace, clarity, and inner strength to communicate more powerfully than your physical presence ever could. By doing so, you not only protect your own well-being but also subtly invite others to reflect upon and reconsider their behaviors, promoting mutual growth and understanding. Method 5. Hold your head high, walk with quiet confidence. There's genuine spiritual strength in carrying yourself with quiet confidence. It's important to understand that this kind of confidence isn't rooted in arrogance, pride, or ego. Instead, it's a deeply compassionate act of recognizing and honoring your inherent worth and dignity. Buddhist teachings emphasize mindful presence, moving through life with grace, awareness, and intentionality. When you walk with your head held high, you're affirming your inner truth, silently acknowledging your intrinsic value without needing external validation. In Buddhism, practitioners frequently engage in walking meditation, a practice in which individuals move slowly, deliberately, and mindfully, heads gently held upright, embodying clarity and inner calm with every step. This careful posture symbolizes inner stability and profound self-assurance, quietly conveying an immense sense of peace and presence. It's not merely about physical stance but about embodying an internal state of tranquility and centeredness. When confronted with disrespect, criticism, or negativity, the natural human reaction often involves defensiveness or retaliation. Yet, holding your head high in quiet dignity is a more powerful, compassionate choice. By refusing to allow someone else's negative emotions or actions to dictate your inner state, you affirm your inner strength and maintain your emotional freedom. You silently communicate to the world, and to yourself, that your peace and self-respect are beyond external reach. I recall attending a social event where someone attempted to mock my spiritual beliefs openly, hoping perhaps to entertain others at my expense. Initially, the temptation to respond defensively or to justify my views arose strongly within me. However, remembering the teachings on mindful presence, I chose instead to smile gently, meeting their gaze without any hostility or aggression. This quiet response held its own power. The person became visibly uncomfortable, perhaps realizing that their behavior said more about their own insecurities than about me. Later that evening, this same individual approached me privately, offering a sincere apology for their earlier behavior. They had been deeply moved by my calm and dignified reaction, which had unexpectedly invited self-reflection rather than confrontation. Buddhist teachings reinforce that true strength often lies in calm resilience rather than aggressive assertion. The Buddha himself provided profound lessons in holding dignity amid adversity. In one well-known account, the Buddha was publicly confronted by a hostile critic who hurled insults and harsh judgments at him in front of a crowd. Instead of responding in anger or defending himself, the Buddha remained serene, quietly composed, his head gently elevated, embodying calm compassion. Eventually, the critic grew exhausted, confused by the Buddha's lack of reaction, and stopped. The Buddha calmly asked him, "If someone offers you a gift and you refuse it, to whom does it belong?" The critic responded that it remained with the giver. The Buddha replied gently, "Likewise, your anger and disrespect remain with you. I do not accept them." This story profoundly illustrates the immense strength of quiet dignity and compassionate confidence. We can also draw meaningful parallels from Christian teachings. Jesus, before his crucifixion, endured severe ridicule, mockery, and humiliation. Despite intense provocations, Jesus maintained quiet dignity and composed confidence. His head held high in silent assurance of his inner truth and spiritual mission. His unwavering composure deeply unsettled those who tried to provoke him, revealing their cruelty and insecurity far more powerfully than words ever could. Jesus' silent dignity was not weakness, it was profound spiritual strength. Holding your head high, therefore, is not merely an act of defiance or pride, it's an act of compassionate understanding toward yourself and others. When you meet disrespect with calm, composed dignity, you encourage others to reflect on their own behavior without fueling further conflict or negativity. It's a quiet yet powerful way to guide others toward greater self-awareness and growth. According to ancient wisdom, ancient sages often emphasized dignity and humility as two sides of the same coin. Lao Tzu, in the Tao Te Ching, wrote, "The sage does not show off. Therefore he shines. He does not justify himself. Therefore he is acknowledged. He does not boast. Therefore he is admired." Walking with quiet confidence embodies exactly this principle. By standing tall with calm humility and strength, you naturally draw respect and admiration without demanding them. The Buddhist analogy of the lotus flower provides further inspiration. Despite growing in muddy waters, the lotus emerges pure, beautiful, and untouched by the surrounding dirt. Likewise, when faced with negativity or disrespect, you have the ability to rise above, maintaining inner clarity and dignity despite external challenges. When facing criticism, remember that maintaining your dignity doesn't require arguing or proving someone else wrong. Instead, pause, breathe, and hold your composure. Visualize yourself as the lotus, untouched by negativity. Respond not with anger but with compassion, recognizing that the source of their disrespect likely stems from personal pain or confusion. Choosing to maintain your dignity also communicates clearly to others that their disrespect will not disturb your inner peace. This quiet strength often inspires respect and reflection far more effectively than confrontation or argument ever could. It encourages others to reevaluate their behavior and invites them toward a path of mindfulness and self-awareness. Walk through life with quiet confidence, holding your head high not out of arrogance but with compassionate dignity. Allow your calm presence to silently convey your intrinsic worth, inviting others to recognize their own better nature. Each moment you choose dignity over reaction, you contribute to a more compassionate, respectful, and mindful world. The 5 methods based on Buddhist teachings have been explained above. What do you think about these methods? If you find them helpful, try applying them in your life. Remember, every time you choose mindfulness and compassion over reaction, you strengthen your heart and your peace of mind. Buddhism isn't just a philosophy, it's a practical guide to living with dignity and purpose. If this video resonated with you, please give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who needs this wisdom today. And don't forget, subscribe to Buddhism and Life and click the notification bell to be part of our growing community. We're on our journey toward 1,000 subscribers, and your support means the world to us. Together, let's walk the mindful path, transforming our lives one lesson at a time. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Namaste.